Hello, and welcome back to the three-part series of videos focusing on the new SAVS content submission process. If you haven't watched the first video, which focuses on news and information, please do go watch that video first because it will kind of highlight some of the reasonings behind why this process has been put in place and also some of the reasons why this process is easier for you to use. So this video focuses on how you can submit jobs to us here at SAVS. So obviously sector jobs are very important to promote, and you can utilize the SAVS website and the SAVS app and our social media channels as well as the weekly email to amplify your message and get your job in front of as many people as possible and hopefully encourage more candidates to apply. So we've created these submission forms as a way to simplify the process for you and also to give you more control over how the content appears on our website. Any content that's submitted through these forms will also be listed on the SAVS app as well as across our social media channels and in our weekly email as well. So if you've watched the first video, some of this will already be familiar, although you might notice a few different field changes in the job submission form. So here you would add in the job title, which will form the title of the actual article itself on our website. And then you would add in your organization. So we're going to pop in SAVS. And then you're going to add in the hours that you would like your new post to carry out in their duties. So it could be 15 hours per week or 37.5 per week. We would just ask you to specify where these hours should be worked, if it's in within a week or within a day or within a month. Most of the time it'll be within a week, so if you just put the amount of hours as well as per week in there, that will be fantastic and give any potential applicants a chance to see exactly the information that they need. And then you've got the salary section, so if it is a full-time position, you could put in 24,000 per annum. However, if the salary isn't full-time, what we would suggest is if you put in either what they would be paid if they were on a full-time role and then simply put in brackets pro rata and then the equal amount to whatever their prorated salary would be, or we would suggest just putting in the actual rate of pay that they will be receiving. For instance, 9,324. Sorry about that, got my words muddled up. Just to make it clearer, we would suggest just popping that in there, but we will leave that entirely to you. You can decide on how you'd like the salary to appear there. And like I mentioned, you can choose if it's part-time or full-time in this option below. And then there's a field for the closing date, so there is a handy calendar drop-down tool that you can use, and you can basically just flick through the dates and the months. So we're going to choose the 19th of July for the closing date. And adding an interview date is really helpful for applicants because it enables them to know when they've been shortlisted, and it can be quite tricky sometimes to inform every single applicant of an application that they've been unsuccessful. Obviously, we strive to do our best, as we all do, to notify applicants, but sometimes, especially when we run busy organisations, it can be difficult to find the time to email every single applicant. So what adding an interview date does is it not only tells applicants when they can expect an interview, but it also highlights that if they've not heard back from you by this point, it's unlikely that they've been considered for the job. So we're going to put our interview date at the 26th. Just make sure that the months are correct and the dates are correct when you're adding in these dates, because you wouldn't want a interview date to be before the closing date, for instance. So just double check when you're sending those in. And this will already be familiar to you after watching the first video in this series. As I mentioned in that series, you can change a lot of the formatting of the content that comes through, which is something that you haven't been able to do before when you've been sending in content to SAVs. So as well as speeding up how quickly content goes on our website for you, this also gives you more control and freedom with how that content appears, which is always a good thing. And like I mentioned, you can break these down by headings. For most of the content, we would suggest just using the paragraph option, because headings really are only used to kind of break up the content and kind of add in clear distinctions between each block of content that you add. If you are going to add in a heading for each section or for your sections, just note that there is already a title for the article, so you don't need to put communications assistant again here, for instance, into that area. And like we said, you can also change your content to appear in bold or italic, or bold and italic, whichever you prefer. And you can also add bullet points or change them to numbers. You can add in a quote. And then once you've finished with your quote, you just click enter and then click the quote again. And you'll notice that it always defaults back to the paragraph option. So even if we choose a heading, as soon as you hit enter, it will default to the paragraph because it's the best way to present content on a page. You can also change the alignment of the wording, but we would suggest that you stick to align left because that will display the content in the best possible way on our website. And you can also add a link to your text as well. So what you would do is you would highlight the text that you would like to add a link to, click insert, and either type the link or paste it here and then click apply. As most of you probably won't be typing the content manually into this box, there is an option to copy and paste content from somewhere else. So it could be a Word document that you've created, or it could simply be from your website. What we would suggest when copying and pasting content to this submission form, and the submission forms that we have for all of the types of content, is that you don't simply click Control and V, or you don't paste the content as it is. The reason for this is if you paste the content as it is, what this can do is it can bring over formatting from your website, it can bring over formatting from the Word document, or formatting from any other sources, and this can interfere with the formatting of the SAVS website and the SAVS app. And when an interference takes place, it can make your content unviewable, it can cause the content to not display at all, and it can make it look very messy, and it won't get through the moderation process, so it can significantly delay your content coming through. So what we would suggest instead is you paste content as plain text for every piece of content that you would like to submit, because that is the best way to do so. So for instance, if I was to paste some content from a Word document, you would right click on your mouse and you would go to paste as plain text instead. And then that will enable you to adjust that how you see fit. So for instance, this could have been a title, and you can add that to be bold and just make sure that you reformat that based on how you would like that to appear. But please do always click paste as plain text, or you can use Control Shift and V instead if you prefer keyboard shortcuts. You won't need to click on the text section because this is really for people that understand coding and how to tweak things based on the code provided, it's much easier to use the visual editor because it gives you all these pre-selected options and also lets you actually see how that looks as you change it. And then what you do is you type in your name and then you type in your email. And once you've submitted this form once, it will pre-populate your name and email just as it did with mine. And we only ask for your email and your name in relation to the submission that you've sent us. This just gives us a chance to contact you if there are any problems or any changes that need to be made to the content. And then once you've double checked or triple checked or quadruple checked that everything is correct, you can then hit the submit button. Please do check over the content before you hit submit because there isn't any way to recall this or change it once the submission has gone through, apart from emailing us directly at the media email, which is media@savs-southend.co.uk if you need any amends to be added. And then you can simply click submit. And then once you've submitted, you'll get a helpful response that says your response has been submitted. And that will go into our content queue and be added to the upload schedule for this week or the following week, depending on the time that you submit that. So we do have a content cut-off of Wednesday afternoon, and essentially that cut-off applies for the weekly email. So if you send the content before then, it will go into the weekly email on Friday. But don't worry, if you send it after Wednesday, there's still a chance that it will also get featured. It's just a rough guideline that we use to let you know when you can expect content, but that doesn't necessarily mean that if you sent content on a Thursday morning or a Thursday afternoon, that it wouldn't make it into the SAVS weekly email. It's just that it's a guideline that we use. And then the content will be added into an upload schedule for social media as soon as that's added to the weekly email as well automatically. So thank you for listening to me explain this process to you. This is the second video of a 3-part series that focuses on the 3 content submission forms for SAVS, and this is, like I mentioned, this is a new way of submitting content to us that gives you more flexibility, helps you to get the content on our website much quicker, and gives you more creative control over how that appears. So thank you for listening, and I will see you on the next video, which will be the final video that talks about how you can submit events and training to us for us to promote for you. Thank you. Goodbye.